Hey everyone, welcome to the most opinionated space podcast on the internet,
At Astra, the podcast where we talk about the intersection between space, policy, and technology.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Newton.
I have a master's of public policy degree with a concentration in science and space policy.
And I'm a PhD in computer science and an all-around tech geek.
All right, everybody. So it's been a week so far of our Ad Astra Facebook vote for your favorite t-shirt design contest. And we've already gotten quite a bit of engagement on there. I think the last I saw, there was something like 20 reactions. However, I think that is a fairly low number for the number of people that listen to our awesome podcast. So please go on over to our Facebook page, Ad Astra, or it's facebook.com/adastra_podcast, and vote for your favorite of the 3 t-shirt designs.
And don't forget to like the page as well.
Oh yeah. Also like the page so that you can follow the other things that we do. But yeah, I guess maybe to clear up some confusion for some of the folks that have posted on there, that yes, we have a logo for the show that is on the website and sort of falls in line with the theme and the dimensions and everything of all the other shows on the Elemental FM network, but the design for the t-shirt's going to be a separate thing. It's going to be it's not going to be a new logo. It's going to be a design for a t-shirt. So please go on over there and react to the image. I think it's love, wow, and haha reactions are the 3 voting options. And they each have a corresponding design. So I guess the second thing I wanted to bring up, so I'm just today, the 30th, finishing up the fundraiser. And, you know, I'll extend it to Wednesday so that all the folks listening to the podcast can put in their last donations. But we've gotten a number of awesome donations from the folks that are connected to the show, as well as people who are friends and colleagues in real life, for RAINN, which is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, RAINN. And so far we've raised $230, I think was the last count. So that's an amazing amount of money. And I guess with today sort of marking the I guess official end of this fundraiser, I counted up all of the Me Too posts that I have seen on Facebook. And it is pretty darn close to 50. So I'm just going to donate $50 to RAINN. And Newton, you said you're going to count yours up and make your announcement.
I did not do my homework before the show.
You didn't. So you didn't.
I will count mine up and make the announcement on Facebook.
All right. So yeah, be sure to follow Newton and myself on Facebook. Follow the Ad Astra Facebook page, where we will also probably make an announcement sometime in the next couple days with the final amount of money that was donated to this fundraiser. So thank you all to everyone who has already donated. Please, please, please donate to those who have not. And follow along with what RAINN's doing. They're doing a lot of great work here in DC as well as around the country. They have tens of thousands of programs that they're working with all around the country.
Okay. All right. So tonight it's going to be a quick episode. We'll start with latest from Washington. We have Jim Bridenstine with an upcoming congressional hearing for his position at NASA as the administrator. In our Space News highlight of the week, we'll talk a little bit about NASA approving the reused Falcon 9 rocket for CRS-13. And latest in tech, we will talk about a small visitor from another solar system. And in coming soon to space, we will talk about NASA highlighting science on the next commercial mission to the space station. And we will be skipping international news, both because of time and we really didn't find anything this week.
So if you are connected to international news and we missed something major in the last week, please shoot us a message and we will correct that next week.
All right, on to the show.
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is on Wednesday, the day that you are listening to this podcast, starting at 10 a.m. and probably going for 2 to 3 hours, there is going to be a series of confirmation hearings, one of which is for Representative Jim Bridenstine, representing Oklahoma, who was nominated a couple weeks ago to be the administrator of NASA. Now, this has been a long time coming. We have talked a lot about Bridenstine and how for all of the different choices that the administration had for NASA administrator, he was probably one of the best choices that they could have come up with. Of course, he is not perfect. And especially with his voting record, certainly is not a member of a certain political party. But he is a very big advocate for space and has been a friend of many of the space advocate organizations that we have worked with in the past. But sort of a development this week heading into this hearing. Also, this hearing is only the first of many steps. If you watch the hearing and his segment is short, don't think that it's because the members of Congress do not care about space. It's just that they have 3 other confirmation hearings they have to get done in those 2 to 3 hours. Of course, his is the highest profile of the hearing, but there will be plenty more where that came from. But sort of leading up to this hearing, recording this on Monday, there was the announcement from Senator Patty Murray, who represents Washington, a Democrat, who said that she opposes Bridenstine on a number of issues ranging from climate change to equal rights. So she wrote a letter to the Senate Commerce Committee, whose jurisdiction is NASA, to the senators who are in charge of the committee, John Thune of South Dakota and Bill Nelson from Florida. Bill Nelson was the first astronaut, or was the first member of Congress to go to space. And that was, I think, back in 1996 when he was still a member of the House. But so Bill Nelson also does not support Bridenstine for the position, but for many other reasons. But Patty Murray signed a 3-page letter on October 26th detailing why she opposes Bridenstine, mainly focusing on the equal rights portion of the complaint, saying that because of his lack of support for women's rights, immigrant rights, LGBTQ rights, that he is not fit for the position, but also that he is not a supporter of climate change research, or a believer or an acceptor of climate change as fact. So this is sort of interesting, the timing of this, having the hearing announced and her releasing this letter, just shows that there is a group of senators within the Congress that does not support Bridenstine for administrator. The problem that we would see is with as many senators on the Republican side running away from the president, that this could be an opportunity for them to show support for some of the, I guess, more moderate positions of the Republican Party, or maybe not positions of the party, but positions of its members. So immigrant rights, LGBTQ rights, which are generally seen as a Democratic issue or supported by Democratic politicians, has started to become more of a accepted within the Republican Party as well. So this will be a very interesting hearing. Patty Murray does not serve on this committee, but is just acknowledging to John Thune, Bill Nelson, and the rest of the committee that she does not support Bridenstine for a number of reasons, climate change being one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's standard politics, which to some extent I kind of miss, but but yeah, I mean, it's a standard political move. Like we've talked about on the show before, that Bridenstine is just one where, as a general audience, you kind of have to take the W. I get it. I get why the senators are kind of pushing back against anything and everything, but I'm hoping that Bridenstine actually gets in there, because if not, we could do much worse.
Yes.
Much worse. If history shows us anything, we can do much worse. So I think that's an appropriate pick. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I guess, something of note is, there is some pretty usual politics that you're seeing here, especially with Bill Nelson from Florida, is a space state, a prominent space state. Nelson is facing a very tough re-election against Rick Scott, who is the former governor of Florida, who is running in 2018 on the Republican ticket. Nelson is trying to score political points by saying, I do not support the president. I do not support his administrator pick, which Bridenstine has varying popularity across the country. And in Florida, he is not supported by either Marco Rubio or Bill Nelson. So for a space state, both of the senators not supporting this administrator, both for very political reasons, not based on any sort of content or policy. I was going to say,
why? What were their justifications for not supporting him?
Well, Nelson doesn't like him because he's too commercial focused, or I guess maybe that's not, but like he's too, I don't know how to put it, like too new space. Like Nelson supports the existing structure.
I like that old space. What?
I mean, Nelson certainly encourages growth in his state of Florida, and encourages the new space movement to take root in, around Kennedy Space Center, but he does not support necessarily Bridenstine's approach. Rubio is, Lil Marco is kind of petty in his non-support for Bridenstine. I mean, just in general, he's kind of petty. But Rubio's has not really given a solid rationale why he doesn't like Bridenstine. The only thing we can really point to is that Bridenstine supported Cruz over Rubio in the Republican primary.
Oh my God.
So Rubio is basing his support of the NASA administrator based on his failed presidential campaign because he couldn't swing enough voters to support him.
You also just gave a little more justification to Patty Murray, but anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Well, there is also that aspect of it, but
yeah,
we can discuss it. We
can discuss that later. This is a policy podcast, not a politics podcast. All right, moving on. Quick view at the space news highlight of the week. So NASA just approved the flight-proven Falcon 9 rocket for CRS-13. SpaceX just got permission to do something it's been planning to do for years. We've all seen them planning on doing it for years, and that's flying NASA payloads on Falcon 9 first stage boosters that have previously been launched and landed. And that may sound like boring news, but what's interesting here is that it's something very different when the commercial sector decides that, I'm okay with SpaceX launching my relatively cheaper satellite on a reused Falcon 9 versus the government stating that we are okay with them flying Falcon 9 rockets for critical missions, or even semi-critical missions like CRS-13, which is the 13th SpaceX resupply mission to the International Space Station. This is something that SpaceX had been working on for years, ever since it stuck the landing with one of its first working Falcon 9 rockets back in December 2015. But now that they have had multiple successful launches of reused rockets, I believe they've had 3 this year alone. The government has finally accepted the amount of risk as related to that. So NASA standards of risk acceptability are significantly more stringent, obviously, than any average commercial satellite operator or anything like that. But after an extremly long review of SpaceX's refurbishing methods and the 3 successful launches from this year, they've stated that they are approving SpaceX to fly on these missions, that the risk is low enough at this point. The Department of Defense, however, has still not approved flight-proven Falcon 9 rockets for a national security launch just yet. For instance, for example, General John Raymond, commander of the U.S. Air Force Space Command, has actually suggested that the service will do just that in the future, but they're still holding off to continue to assess the risks. But securing government contracts on reusable rockets is something that SpaceX has been dreaming of. I mean, this is kind of them hitting, or at least stage 1 of their long-term goals, right? It was never just can we reuse a rocket, even though that's a major milestone. It was always, can we reuse a rocket for the same purposes that most groups use regular rockets. So can we use rockets both for commercial and government services? And this is going to be a moneymaker for them. This is big news for them. Make no mistake. So that. So yeah, look out for that. There's not really much news on that aside from they've been approved, and I'm sure they'll get approved by the U.S. Air Force / DoD fairly soon.
Yeah. Well, so the interesting thing about this is that the Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, the COTS, is the program that this was born out of. So the Commercial Resupply Services, CRS, which you'll notice all these missions begin with CRS insert number here, were born of this COTS program, which I think in total was $3.5 billion starting in 2008, if I remember correctly. Prove me wrong if you can. And the whole idea behind it was, and this is a legacy program from the Bush administration, actually, that was continued under Obama and is currently being finished out by the Trump administration. That the idea was that you would set out these contracts and say, hey, NASA can't afford to send commercial or to send cargo to the International Space Station every time. Like, they have a lot of money, but they don't have that much money to ship all of the 20 plus metric tons of cargo all the way to Russia to then launch to the International Space Station. So they opened up the opportunity for commercial partners in the, at the time, blossoming commercial space sector to compete and win this contract. So the two winning there were three winning contract holders. One was Sierra Nevada Corporation, SpaceX, and Orbital Sciences, which soon became Orbital ATK. Currently, the work is being done that it's being bought out by Northrop Grumman. Sierra Nevada Corporation lost the contract after the first couple months due to some there was some weird, I don't know, there was something going on with like the schedules and the amount that they promised that they would pay and the amount that they requested from NASA. And NASA just said, all right, well, we're just not going to offer you the contract now. There was a whole GAO got involved. It was a mess. And this was back in about 2009. But so currently it's only SpaceX and Orbital ATK that are launching these CRS rockets, with SpaceX launching from Florida and Orbital ATK launching out of Wallops. Orbital ATK using the Antares rocket system to get their Cygnus cargo ship to the ISS. So this has been a very interesting program from start until now, and it's a very interesting that it's still in use. Orbital Sciences was only, or ATK was only contracted to do 8 launches. Granted, they have not even hit that 8 quite yet, due to an explosion on the launch pad back in 2015. No, it was 2014.
No, it was earlier. Yeah, it was 2014.
It was 2014, yeah. August 2014. And it wasn't until August or September 2016 that they finally got the launch pad put together at Wallops to launch more. And I think they have a launch coming up on the 11th of November. It's 7:30 in the morning, 7:37 in the morning. But so Orbital and SpaceX have been fulfilling this contract and have been extending the amount of launches through negotiations with NASA. So that's more money that NASA's spending on these commercial programs that are, one, helping these companies develop the technology to put stuff in orbit, including cargo, potentially humans. I know the Dragon capsule that SpaceX uses to get stuff gets their stuff to the ISS is a same/similar design to what the Dragon 2 capsule is going to be that's going to carry humans. Orbital ATK does not have a human-rated or have plans necessarily for a human-rated launch vehicle. But this is the sort of foundation. This is government coming in and saying, all right, we can't afford to keep doing this ourselves. So we're going to focus on SLS, on Orion, on these major projects that's going to further push us beyond low Earth orbit. And here's some extra money to the commercial sector to develop the capability to do it faster, better, and cheaper. So it allows those companies, one, to get those technologies up and running and create that foundation. But two, it allows the government to focus on other things,
Right.
such as SLS, Orion, and the Journey to Mars or Deep Space Gateway, whatever the program was at the time. So I'm excited to see them reuse the Falcon 9, because that will not only be an interesting feat by the government and further prove that reusable technology is the way of the future, but it's going to significantly decrease the overall cost for future cargo missions to the ISS,
Absolutely.
assuming it's successful.
Absolutely. And that means NASA can shift those costs to other places.
Yeah.
Or, well, hopefully, as long as they get funding.
So long as they have the funding to do that.
Yes.
But hopefully there will be more commercial space stations in the future that we don't have to rely on the ISS as the test bed for all these technologies.
We shall see. When do you think we'll have the first commercial space station? 2024. 2020, literally right when ISS is allegedly done.
I think ISS is being, I think because we have said it, it's going to be true that ISS is going to be extended to 2030. Sure. Although I disagree with that option. I think we should end ISS as soon as possible to make room for, within the budget for another space station, or just allow companies to fill that void in low Earth orbit. NASA needs to get out of low Earth orbit. I think this is something that across the space advocate community that there is a consensus that NASA needs to be focusing on these longer duration deep space missions to cislunar space, trans-Martian space, and cis-Martian space.
That's true though, but we haven't had, to the best of my knowledge, anyone provide a habitat as a commercial organization before for human beings.
Bigelow. The beam,
yeah.
NASA announced two or 3 weeks ago, announced that they were going to keep is it technically inflatable? I can't remember what the distinction is. Is it the expandable or inflatable?
I thought they called it the expandable. Yeah,
the beam. It's an expandable module on the space station that virtually weighs nothing compared to a pre-built module that they send up, and it just expands in space as it's filled with the artificial atmosphere, and so that's already been tested. And I think Bigelow says something around like 2020 is when they're going to launch the B330, which is basically it's two of those modules stuck together with a docking port on one end, so that you can go up there and rendezvous with it and put people there. I think each beam module carries about 6 people. So I think the idea is you'd have one for habitat, so 6 people would live and sleep and eat in there, and the other one would be for laboratory space. But so those plans are already in the works. But I would say the first sustainable, fully commercial space station, 2024 at the
7
earliest.
years.
7 years. Well, that's not that long. I mean, like if you think of in the grand scheme of the cosmos, if you think of the grand scheme of commercial space flight, 7 years is not that long. I mean, it's hardly been 7 years since the first successful Falcon 1 test.
I don't think it's long. I think it's short.
So I would say in 7 years that there's going to be enough tests done. And also at that time, the launch vehicle market is going to have expanded considerably with Blue Origin, potentially with Sierra Nevada developing their Dream Chaser, and the various hopefully Virgin Orbital or Virgin Galactic, whatever it's called now, are going to have their launch vehicle ready. That the cost to launch a space station is going to go down considerably, and especially if it's an expandable module, that all you need to do is send it up there with a couple cans of compressed air, and then you just have to expand it from there.
That'll be an interesting time.
Yeah. So early 2020s is going to be a testing ground for commercial space flight, having a sustainable presence in low Earth orbit, completely independent from government funding. 2024 is going to be the first fully commercial space station. And I would say Bigelow Aerospace has that one, is going to be the first one.
Okay. Oh, cool. We shall see. Moving on to latest in tech. A small asteroid or comet visits from beyond the solar system. So
Beyond the solar system. Tom, if you could echo that, that would be great.
so this is the first rock that we've observed from outside the solar system, well, in its current state, if you will. And we watched it sail past the Earth on October 19th. On October 19th, the object that's about several hundred feet across was currently speeding away from us at more than 98,000 miles an hour. At that speed, the space rock is moving fast enough to outrun the sun's gravitational tug, which astronomers noted implied that it was never part of our solar system to begin with. And that find marks a historic first for astronomers studying how stars and planets form. So scientists had long expected that the process of planetary formation results in chunks of ice and rock that, when given a nudge, could be flung into interstellar space. And in previous surveys, they saw hints of that kind of interstellar material in the form of dust-sized particles. But this object, known as A2017U1, which, God, we're great at naming these things.
So scientific.
Yes. It's actually the first object of appreciable size that has flown through our own cosmic neighborhood. The object could give scientists sort of an unprecedented opportunity to stare straight at the leftovers of a potentially alien planet. That's what's really cool and interesting about this. It's the first piece of evidence that we've seen of how planets are built around other stars besides our own. And besides things that we've seen using the telescopes that we've been using for creating exoplanets. So this was discovered over at the University of Hawaii Institute for Astronomy. The props have been going to a postdoc researcher, which he has to be excited, even though he's making nothing. Rob Warwick. He saw something strange in some images from the university's Pan-STARRS 1 telescope. He spotted a speck in the night sky that seemed to be moving far too fast to comfortably orbit the sun. He quickly notified his colleague Marco Micheli, who also came across the same strange object using an European Space Agency telescope in the Canary Islands. Now we've had sort of this double confirmation. They traced the object's trajectory and calculated its speed. If you take the orbit and backtrack it to the point before it enters the solar system, it was moving at about 26 kilometers per second at that time, which is extremely fast. Based on their data, they're starting to spawn this community of astronomers that are quickly suspecting that this object was ejected a really long time ago from an unknown star system. They still haven't been able to identify exactly where it came from, but this has become sort of a hunt. Tons of groups are getting involved in this. Folks from Johns Hopkins APL, other folks from obviously NASA Goddard. A ton of people are getting involved in it. And so the A2017 U1 had initially been classified as a comet, but follow-up observations by University of Hawaii, another one of its researchers, Karen Meach, quickly ruled out that possibility. If it were a comet, the object would have unfurled a tail and halo of gas and dust as it neared the sun. And this just didn't really exist for a 2017 UI. I'm like looking for a nickname of this thing, like something I could call it, like the AUI or something like that. So right now they don't really know what the object is. It's kind of too soon to say. I mean, it's been literally 11 days. Its composition may differ from any of the objects that were born in our solar system. So it's a mystery. And it's a mystery that they're tracking down with just using our current telescope capabilities, as well as hints about its speed, the angle at which it came in, how light reflects off of it, things like that. Not just straightforward images of it. This is something where visible images sort of gave us a first indicator, but now we're using all sorts of physical techniques to identify exactly what this thing is and characterize it. So we have a visitor from another star system. We're at a very interesting place where we actually get to see it, and I'm anxious to see where that hunt goes. So
I'm racking my brain trying to figure out a better way than 2017 UI.
2017 UI, A27. No, they're going to nickname it. It's just these things when they're cataloged, they get named these. Well, they get these weird names. I'm sure they even have something internally that they're calling it.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, there's it's good that we have a standard system of designation for these things. But I think they should maybe, I guess, earthsky.org or whoever you're looking to find your space news should come up with a catchy nickname. First one to come up with a catchy nickname gets to name it. Like, come on. That's
right.
just it's like in politics where like everything becomes a gate. Like Watergate. Come on. The person who came up with that is like the smartest person ever.
Or just
had something catch on. or it might be named after the hotel.
Yeah, exactly. Or it might be named after a hotel. All right. So once again, we're running through this episode, moving on to coming soon to space. NASA highlights science on its next commercial mission to the space station. So this came from the PR Newswire. So NASA's going to be hosting a media teleconference at 1 p.m. on Thursday, November 2nd. That's this Thursday, a day after this episode airs, to discuss select science investigations and technology demonstrations launching on the next orbital ATK commercial resupply flight to the International Space Station. So the flights that Jack was discussing earlier. Yeah. Orbital ATK is targeting Saturday, November 11th for the launch of Cygnus, the Cygnus spacecraft on the from the Wallops facility that we talked about earlier. So participants in this briefing are going to be Elwood Agazid, the Deputy Program Manager of the Small Spacecraft Technology Program at NASA Ames. Also at the briefing will be Matt Zimet, the Executive Director for Advanced Formats at National Geographic, and Michelle Lucas, the founder and president at Higher Orbits. And she'll be discussing she'll be discussing Go for Launch. So check that out if you get a chance on Thursday, November 2nd. It's a media teleconference. There may be some way of accessing it online. We will post it in the show notes. And other than that, we have Astronomy on Tap.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned Nerd Night, right?
I did not mention Nerd Night.
Oh, so I actually kind of just threw that in like a second ago. So we're going to be presenting a presentation that we have so-called titled "How to Be a Space Advocate: An Ad Astra Guide to Shooting for the Stars" at the November Nerd Night event. It's we're doing it in conjunction with DC Podfest, which is happening the 10th and 11th. And Nerd Night is hosting their event on the 11th. I think it's $10 for tickets. But it's going to be at DC9, the same venue as Astronomy on Tap if you've been there. And it's going to be us. Let's see who else is going to be there. Mary Sakai from Accents on the Brain is giving a presentation, as well as Doug Parsons from America Adapts. So definitely check out those podcasts, as well as ours, but you're already listening to that, so you're great. And then come on down to DC9 on Saturday, November 11th, 6 to 8:30 p.m. And we will be giving our presentation on space advocacy.
And we are giving, and we will be at DC9 in an hour right now, actually, in the past for you guys back in time.
for those of you listening in the future, for now,
yes.
We are about to go embark and judge a costume contest for Astronomy on Tap. So I'm going as Carl Sagan, but I am not participating in the costume contest. But I'm sure there will be billions and billions of awesome costumes that we get to judge. Maybe not billions and billions, but.
And I am certainly not going as Black Panther like I did last weekend. That outfit is way too much. You'll see. You guys will see pictures online of it.
Yeah.
So,
We'll take some official Ad Astra photography. So.
Yep. All right.
Okay, so I guess that's it for this week. Newton, I will see you in about 45 minutes to an hour. And to everyone else, it has been a great episode. Nice short episode. So definitely check out the fundraiser on Facebook, like us on Facebook, and react to the photo to vote for your favorite. We're announcing the winner on 11/15. So hurry up and do that. So yeah. All right. Thank you, Newton.
Yep.
As always, I'm Jack.
And I'm Newton.
Ad Astra.